From atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West, you are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live on your radio. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use. No doubt starts now. This, my fellow Americans, is the broadcast for June the 4th in the year of our Lord 2025. This is hour one of two. The goal always to protect life, liberty, and property, to promote God, family, and country, and to do so on your radio and the traditions of our founding fathers. Yes, indeed, we use the supreme law of the land, the Constitution, for the United States of America, the Constitution, with all of its checks and balances brilliantly put in place by the founding fathers, knowing we reject revolution unless it's a Jesus revolution. Then we're in because we follow the Prince of Peace. James Edwards with me. Race, politics, and hypocrisy in 21st century America, thepoliticalcesspool.org, an incredible award-winning broadcast every Saturday night live or on demand at your fingertips, thepoliticalcesspool.org. Hi, James. Welcome back, sir.
Hey, Sam. It's great to be back. I am a little exhausted and exuberant after a wonderful weekend spent with you. We'll talk about that later, but still resting, recovering, and have returned home to a mountain of work and excited to get back at it and start cracking again today here on Liberty Roundtable.
Amen. And, man, we've got a lot to talk about. That's for sure. Woo, man, there's just been so much going on, ladies and gentlemen, just so much going on. You know, I'm having a problem with Donald Trump on several issues. I know he's done a lot of good. I really do. But, man, I feel like he's losing his mind. I know that he feels like he's running out of time. I know that he feels like he's got to get something accomplished. But I feel like they've made some major, how many times can I say major to illustrate the point, missteps that are absolutely going to come back to haunt the Donald. It's going to be disaster. It's just a shame. And what I'm talking about is the big, beautiful bill. The Doge leader, Elon Musk, against Trump on this now. There's a big old rift. We'll get into that as the broadcast unfolds. But before we even get there, Trump doubles tariffs on steel and aluminum imports as trade deadline hits. Trump says the tariff hike was necessary for national security. I'm not buying this. I'm not buying this at all. I know that he wants to push hard. I know that he wants to play games. I know that he wants to, deal with the art of the deal and all this kind of stuff. But I think he's making a big mistake. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. But, James, let's get your thoughts on this. You just read The Art of the Deal, right?
Did I read The Art of the Deal? No, I have not read Donald Trump's
You haven't read
book.
The Art of the Deal. All right.
No.
What do you think of this thing, though? I think The Art of the Deal is starting to kind of fail. I mean, I appreciate what he's trying to say. But he's really, really trashing small business is what he's doing.
Well, now, are we talking about the tariffs on steel and aluminum?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back, you and I disagree a little bit. You have a different perspective working in IT and talking about, the green card thing, and you see things in multi-layers. But, I mean, this goes back again to my guy, Pat Buchanan, a quarter of a century ago, and even in the 90s, even longer than that, during his first two campaigns. I mean, talking about the dumping, the flooding of the American market with cheap steel and aluminum rather than reindustrializing and manufacturing it ourselves. So I think this is something that Buchanan and Ron Paul, certainly, we talked to Lou Moore recently about this. He's a big advocate of the tariffs and believes in them. Yes, I mean, on the short term, of course, when you pivot from decades and decades and decades of purposefully undermining American manufacturing power and factories and things like that, mills, to put tariffs on something that you need is going to, cause a shock. It's like me if I eat a vegetable or something. My body's not going to know what to do, but that's not necessarily to say that the vegetable is going to be bad for me in the long term. And so, yeah, you're going to have that in the immediate, or in the present. But moving forward, if there was an actual push to, in addition to the tariffs, rebuild steel mills and things like that, that have just been decimated and no longer exist, then that's a good thing.
Yeah, and I don't have any problem with tariffs. Okay, let's be very clear about that. I don't have any problem with tariffs. I believe tariffs are constitutional. I believe tariffs are the way that we are supposed to pay for the proper role of limited government. So I support that 100%. So let's not talk about fundamentals, because I agree with the president on the fundamentals, 100%, without equivocation, 100%. Where I'm disagreeing, though, is with tactics. And what I mean by that is you create havoc in the marketplace when you're so wishy-washy. When you mac tariffs up to 125%, then you back them down, and then you're like, just kidding, and then you do this and do that, and we're going to slap these tariffs on everybody with no preparation, no warning. There's no infrastructure in America for business because we've disassembled it over the last 40 years or so, at least 25 years or more, 35 years since, Ross Perot said we were going to have a sucking sound, and he was right as rain, even though they mocked him at the time. No one admits he was right, but they should. Buchanan's for tariffs. Ross Perot was for tariffs. I'm for tariffs. We shouldn't have let this business leave the United States in the first place, but you can't turn on a dime. Or what you do is you hurt small business. So we're talking about tariffs on aluminum and steel, as far as I understand it, from all countries. And it's very, very complicated with the different tariffs and the different legislation and different regulations and everything else. It's hard for businesses to even understand what their obligations are, much less adjust. And when people have product coming from China, coming from all kinds of different countries, Vietnam, whatever, on the water or whatever, and the tariffs just, you have a container leave, and then, hey, the tariff changes or hits or is there, and then it's gone, or whatever. It's this problem in the marketplace. The government's whole purpose is to create a level and stable playing field, and this flies in the face of this. So I don't have a problem with the tariffs on the steel or the aluminum. My problem is it's one, huge, and two, companies don't have any time to pivot or adjust, and they don't have any stable playing field or any stable infrastructure by which to make decisions. And so companies are scrambling. Well, the small companies that scramble just to stay alive, if you're not very careful, they're going to go out of business. Let's say that you say, all right, I'm going to, pivot and make my product out of something else. Or I'm going to, this doesn't just affect steel companies. This affects anything made out of steel, right?
Yeah, no, I'm listening to you.
And so what do you say to that, though? What if you own a business? And what if you just have steel in part of your product, for instance?
Okay, so again, what would be the appropriate amount of time to let these people prepare? Because what you've got is you've got 4 years. I mean, is 6 months enough time? A year, 2 years? I mean, you got the midterms, and if these literal demons on the other side get back in, nothing's going to happen. And so again, how much time do you need to do something? He doesn't have all the time in the world. I mean, certainly he's going up against trends that have been in place for a generation or two now.
Yeah,
perhaps 30, even longer than years. That. Right. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, if your manufacturing and industrialized base is dying, if not dead, I mean, how long do you wait to take some medicine? I mean, yes, the medicine may have some side effects that make you sicker, or at least seemingly sicker in the moment. I don't
think that you need to wait forever to do it, but I think a lot of pipelines in America now, because of what we've done, we've put products in China and in Vietnam and different places. I mean, you literally have a 3 to 6 month pipeline for a lot of product from the time you say, go make this product till the time you have it in the United States. It takes 30 days at least even to get it across the water, or sometimes 45 days even to get it across the water. And so you need a decent introductory, time frame by which to respond to this. You also, though, need to have stability. Now, if you say, I'm going to put a 10% tariff on this item, and I'm going to give you a 6-month time frame, I think people can adjust to that. If you say, though, I'm going to have a 50% tariff, and then you're like, tomorrow, just kidding, it's 25. Then it's like, well, nope, it's back to 50. People can't adjust. Companies can't deal with that. And you say, Sam, how do you know? Why do you know this is so difficult? Because I'm in IT, and I'm the guy that runs the software that has to adjust to this, James. How do I adjust to that? Just tell me how I adjust and comply.
He hasn't been herky-jerky with the, and this is all, of course, the negotiating tactic with the levels of tariffs, when they're going to start, and then they get pushed back, and then the percentage rate, fluctuates wildly.
I'm not debating his right to do it, but this is a congressional responsibility too, not the president's responsibility. If you look at the Constitution.
Yeah, well, the
And
Constitution
and the reason it is for this stability point that I'm making is, hey, if you want to put a 10% tariff and move forward with it in a 6-month time frame, I don't think there's any problem adjusting. But when you tell me it's on and it's not, so we bring products in from Canada, just say, and all of a sudden, go ahead and skip the break. This is too good. There's just, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, everything you bring in now has a tariff on it. Well, I want to stop bringing those products in under $800 because the tariffs are so big that it doesn't make sense. So now I go in and I spend a week of my time as an IT guy adjusting the software to deal with that. And then right when I get done, Trump goes, we're going to suspend it. Now I got to turn it back on again. So then I go spend another couple of days turning it back on again. And then he goes, but it's kicking in 2 months or a week. And now I got to turn it off again, James. And so I'm telling you, it'll run small business into the ground.
That is a valid point in so much as it would, obviously there's negotiation tactics in play here, but it would have, from my perspective as a layman observer, or even as a commentator, you would probably expect that the president or his administration would have come in with the exact plan of action, what the rates are going to be, when they're going to go into effect, and you just stick to that. Now, again, going
now, by the
from
way, I'm fine with that
to,
plan, though, because business can have a standard, stable playing field by which to do business, right? But let's take another scenario. So all of a sudden the tariffs are this. How long does it take to raise my prices to my companies or the companies that buy from me? So I'm a manufacturer, wholesaler, whatever I am. How long does it take for me to adjust pricing to the people downstream from me?
Well, that's another thing that, again, ultimately my position is, for whatever reason, the administration is, Trump is basically like the puppet master with his hands on the strings, just when the entire global markets are fluctuating to his whims. And it's an incredible thing. I've never, ever seen anything like it.
And I'm saying the Constitution is designed to prevent that from happening. Nobody should have that much power, that much dictatorial control. It's that simple.
Well, again, there's been, the Constitution's been run roughshod pretty much since the 1860s, so it hadn't done much to save us. It's going to take some tough medicine going to take a lot more than soap and water to clean up this mess, as I say. I don't mind authoritarianism. I never have. But the issue with this is, my final position is, the tariffs are good. We need tariffs, especially if it can give us some.
I agree. We've already started out, so that's not a debate. So we're not debating tariffs. We're debating how they're implemented and how they're leveled and what the ripple effect is and how people and businesses and countries and downstream, wholesalers and retailers and how everybody adjusts, right? That's what we're discussing.
Yeah, the volatility.
The regulatory reality, the volatility, the compliance factor. Okay, take another issue. I don't have any problem with that, but if you can do that, increase the tariffs to that degree. Look, just take an item. I'm telling you right now, items that contain steel or aluminum, you're going to instantly see, 30%, 40% increase in costs of goods to consumers too.
Well, it's interesting. You're talking about serious
things. If you don't
things.
reduce taxes, I don't know how we can handle that. I can't, at least financially or fundamentally. I don't know that I can handle it from a business point of view or from a personal, family, or whatever you want to call it, retailer point of view.
You're talking about the big infrastructure stuff like steel, but my cousin went to.
No, I'm talking about even tiny products that have steel in them.
Well, but it's of course across the board. Forget steel for a moment. My cousin went to a store a few days ago and bought a pair of pants, just from one of the department stores, and it had on the receipt, the price of the pants, the tax, and then it said tariff charge. So they added that in there, and of course, what these major corporations, these retailers are going to do, they're going to put that in there to try to stick it to Trump or something. But of course,
that's right.
Why isn't anybody talking about the lack of accountability or the absolute, cannibalization of, America's industrial might and all of the mistakes that were purposefully made. I don't even know if they were mistakes. I think they intentionally have been trying to destroy America and get us into this to this globalism.
When you say they, though, let's talk about who they is, though. We want to act like it's China's fault or some of these other countries' fault, and I think
it's the United States government's fault.
It's the United States government's fault for allowing the business to go there in the first place.
Exactly, and so that's where the real problem is. I mean, Trump trying to do what he can with the tariffs at this late stage to try to balance the ledgers a little bit, or to what I hope for is to spark some reindustrializing of this country. That's certainly, I mean, the problem that we're facing right now is a result of this purposeful attack on America's manufacturing might to level the playing field with the world and to take America out. So that's the problem. I mean,
you're
this is just
exactly
a late stage.
On the problem. That's why I say I support Trump and I support the tariffs.
Right. This is just a late stage sort of radical action, but it's something that should have always been in place. And so again, you're trying to do it very suddenly, and I don't really understand why everything changes so frequently with this, why you can't just stick with the rate with certain countries on certain products and just set it and that be that. This is the day they go into effect.
Problem with certain rates on certain tariffs, and you can adjust and you can put your pricing in place and your margins in place. But some of these small manufacturers are going to get caught. Because what do? Do they sell the current products they have in their warehouse at the lower price, or do they raise price instantly?
No, you're right.
You're
right.
Or do they ramp that up, or do they? What about when companies, like a lot of companies that are retailers, place POs to their wholesalers well in advance? They're like, hey, here's our projections for the next year, and I've got the one PO per month for the next 12 months, and I'm expecting these prices. Someone's got to go in and revisit every one of those POs now. And the question is how many of them will get canceled and and so it puts every level of business in serious turmoil. So I'm not debating the tariffs and the value and the need and I'm debating who controls that. I think it should be Congress if you look at your Constitution. And I'm also saying it shouldn't be so volatile that there's no stable playing field. The whole purpose of government is to create stability and reliability and a level playing field and these different things. It's becoming very, very, very difficult for business. And I'm the guy that runs the software. I'm the guy that has to make the adjustments in real world. How do I make those adjustments? How do I, and the problem is it's hard to understand, because when you look at this tariff added to this tariff minus this tariff plus this regulation plus this, I can't remember what it's called. There's all these different terms. How do I even figure out what it is and then make my software do all that? Even if I get that done, then it changes tomorrow. And I'm telling you right now, it is a nightmare, James, to keep up with.
No,
it's almost impossible to figure out.
Well, see, that's why perspectives matter and why people's perspectives vary. You're looking at it from a very different thing. I want to see America rebuild. I want to see these cheap and substandard products compared to American-made steel be taxed to try to incentivize companies not to go that way, and while we get our feet back under us.
Yeah,
however,
I ultimately want that too.
But you're looking at it from a very practical way that impacts you personally, and that's very legitimate and valid as well.
But I think it impacts business all over the nation. Let's say that I want to bring my product to America. That's what Trump's trying to achieve. I can't bring my product to America because I can't get the steel in America that I need to put in my products. Now what do I do?
Well, I mean, of course,
now if there was a way for me to get if there was a way for me to get that done, that's one thing. But if I'm a small, to medium company, and I'm talking even millions of dollars of business, I'm still tiny. I don't even have any way to accomplish what his goals are because the infrastructure has been disassembled and taken apart. You can't even get raw materials to the United States for most products now.
This is an aside, but it's tangentially related to what we're talking about. It's not just the here and now with this issue that is making life unaffordable for Americans. I mean, again, we've talked about the rising cost of food, fast food. It's $50-$60 to take a family of 4 to Chick-fil-A now. You get 4 combos and a dessert. You used to go to a steakhouse for that. And then, I mean, and this went back to the COVID era, Sam.
Yeah, you're right.
Home prices have doubled. I mean, nobody can afford to buy a home now. I mean, that certainly predates predates what we're talking about here with tariffs. I mean, so this whole thing, this whole system is just crushing the middle class, and that was certainly
the answer
going
is
on
to get
before
rid of the
this.
IRS and to give me a break on the other side of the coin. But a bunch of talks been done with that, but nothing. If we want to talk about being out of time, hey, why not get rid of the IRS or decrease my expenses on the other side? If you said, Sam, all your products are going to go up in cost, but you don't have a thug breathing down your neck every time you turn around, swearing to the penalty of perjury that you paid the piper and all this kind of stuff, hey, I might be able to weather it. But when you keep that in place and then add insult to injury, where do you go?
But see, this is the thing. I mean, that was actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because this was actually something that was mentioned when the tariffs were still forthcoming, and that was, we'll make so much money with tariffs, we'll be able to eliminate the IRS. And so I don't know if that's just some sort of a pie in the sky sort of thing to make everybody look more favorably on it, but I really hope that there's some truth into that, and I hope that Trump will make that. I hope that there is.
I know, but there's no zero evidence that there really is.
Well, if it would be nice, obviously, in a perfect world, if Trump would use that as the bait for the midterms and get that done in the early part.
Hey, man, now if you came back and said I abolished the IRS, and so everybody gets basically anywhere from a 10 to a 30% tax savings because the IRS is gone, and now we're going to put 10 to 30% tariffs on, I don't think anybody would complain. I think people would be dancing in the streets, buddy.
Well, you really need to do that. I mean, that really needs to be the yin and the yang and the quid pro quo. We're going to give you these tariffs. You're going to pay a little bit more on pants or really everything. I mean, certainly steel, but we're going to get rid of that. It really needs to be one. It really needs to be both. And of course, people forget. Perhaps not this audience. The IRS, the federal income tax didn't even come about until a little over 100 years ago. I mean, this was something that the country did just fine without. We were a global power, superpower, long before they started robbing us. So, if we could get by before, we could get by again, but you do need to compensate for that loss of income with efficient government spending and tariffs.
Amen. And so I don't want people to think I'm against the tariffs because I'm for them. I'm just saying right now that, in the trenches, and I'm there. This isn't like hyperbole. This isn't Sam just has a political opinion, or this is real in terms of, I'm an IT consultant and I'm an IT strategist for business and everything else. And I look at this and I just say, man, it's very difficult for me to even know what to recommend these businesses do. Right? They're like, Sam, how do we handle this? I'm like, you know what? I got to work on this. First off, I got to know what the tariff's supposed to be. And then I got to back into, what it is. Then I got to back into when it's going to change and how fast it's going to change. And I got to, every single container that comes off the water, I got to now adjust on the fly and try to comply. And I'm not against compliance either. But I'm telling you, it's about impossible to do. For example, take product A. I don't know if you know this, but you got to figure out what percentage of that product is steel, first of all, right? Then you got to say, okay, that percentage of the product that's steel in that price of that product, so a landed price in the United States, and you got to say, okay, whatever percent of that product is steel, and then I got to say, okay, and then that percentage I got to figure out, hey, what the tariffs are, what the added tariffs are. I got to come up and eventually back into a number. And that, whatever that is, I got to pay. And if it changes, I might have 3 containers on the water. And if they hit 3 different dates, they might be 3 different, completely different mathematical numbers that I got to comply with and pay. How do I adjust for all that? It's very, very difficult. And then with the modern times with the sales tax, I got to adjust to all 50 state sales taxes, 3,000 county jurisdictions for that. And I gotta manage all this as a teeny business. Pretty soon the cost to comply is going to be more than the tariffs. Then what? I'm telling you, it's disaster, people. Hang tight. I want to talk about the big, beautiful bill. There's a battle going on about that. Whoa, baby. I'm telling you right now, Trump is stepping in it. Not because he's not right on the points, but because the way this is being handled is absolutely disaster. Where's the relief for the American people is what I would ask the Donald right now. And the answer is, it might come, but right now it looks like a day late and $1 short at the least. Hang tight. James Edwards and yours truly continue in seconds.
Pursuing liberty, using the Constitution as our guide. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. The family of the Egyptian national accused of a fiery anti-Semitic attack in Boulder, Colorado, has been detained by immigration authorities. Mohammed Salman's wife and 5 children could be deported. Tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from most countries have doubled to 50%. President Trump says the U.S. has allowed itself to be ripped off by its trading partners for far too long. The president says the U.S. economy is booming, and there is a growing body of evidence to back that claim. Instead of 3.8% now, the Fed estimates the economy grew at 4.2% in the most recent quarter. A pleasant surprise, according to Heritage Foundation economist Stephen Moore.
It's like a cannonball out of a cannon. I was shocked by it. People are spending again. Business are investing again.
Moore speaking with the Salem Radio Network. Former DOGE chief Elon Musk has come out against the president's budget and tax cut bill. It's now being debated by the Senate. Senate Majority Leader John Thune.
We obviously respect everything that Elon did with DOGE. On this particular issue, we have a difference of opinion. And I think it's rooted in the fact that he's accepting the CBO assumptions that are built upon a static scoring assessment of the effect, the macroeconomic effect, growth effect, that these changes will have on our economy.
Iran's supreme leader is rejecting President Trump's demand that Tehran halt uranium enrichment. It's part of a deal with the U.S. to lift economic sanctions on the Islamic Republic. Parts of the country's midsection, including portions of Missouri, have been pummeled by fierce storms. The storms bringing destructive winds along with flash flooding. Watching Wall Street, stocks modestly higher. The Dow is up about 32 points, while the Nasdaq is ahead 33, and the S&P better by 9 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher, host of the Mike Gallagher Show here, and when it comes to mortgages, I only trust the team that's helped me and my family more than once, Mike and Brian at Fellowship Home Loans. These guys are friends, believers. They built a company on biblical values that actually puts you first. In today's economy, with everything costing more, you need a lender who can help you make smart, strategic moves when it comes to real estate. Need cash for home improvements? Thinking about a HELOC or a refi to consolidate debt? Well, Fellowship Home Loans can help you do it faster and for less. Why? Because they're a direct lender, not a broker. No middleman. No unnecessary fees. That means fewer hoops, less waiting, and real answers from real people who care. Whether you're buying, selling, refinancing, or just exploring your options, Fellowship Home Loans will tailor everything to your unique needs. Get started at fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G. fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G. or call 800-510-MIKE. 800-510-6453. Fellowship Home Loans. Mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers. DBA Fellowship Home Loans. Equal housing lender. NMLS number 819382.
Do you treasure your liberty? Well, at lovingliberty.net, we most certainly do. And we want to help protect your liberty too. Become part of the family. Everyone knows that the core of any society is the family. Therefore, the government should foster and protect the integrity of its family, we the people. Won't you join us as a Loving Liberty sponsor to help us promote the principles in the 5,000-year leap? Let's restore the miracle that changed the world at lovingliberty.net.
As you are aware, America is divided over every fault line possible. This is intentionally fostered by those who do not love God, family, or country. We believe a peaceful future as a free people absolutely depends on civility. Clarion Call for Civility is looking for funding and volunteers at every level to make our hopes and efforts a reality. Please donate, sign our pledge, and help us in our sacred cause. Please visit callforcivility.com for more details. Callforcivility.com.
Why don't we say to the government writ large that they have to spend a little bit less? Anybody ever had less money this year than you had last? Anybody ever having a 1% pay cut? You deal with it. That's what government needs, a 1% pay cut. If you take a 1% pay cut across the board, you have more than enough money to actually pay for the disaster relief. But nobody's going to do that because they're fiscally irresponsible. Who are they? Republicans. Who are they? Democrats. Who are they? Virtually the whole body is careless and reckless with your money. So the money will not be offset by cuts anywhere. The money will be added to the debt, And there will be a day of reckoning. What's the day of reckoning? The day of reckoning may well be the collapse of the stock market. The day of reckoning may be the collapse of the dollar. When it comes, I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you it has happened repeatedly in history when countries ruin their currency.
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman, James Edwards, talking about tariffs. Trump doubles tariffs on steel and aluminum as trade deadline hits. Trump says it's necessary for national security, and I think in a long-term point, he's absolutely right. I think the blustering and the back and forth and everything else is a bigger national security problem than the current lack of tariffs, by the way. But if we roll out stable tariffs, I support it 1,000%. If we decrease the burden on the American people, right now we're paying on two sides. You're paying the EIRS or the ERS and the IRS as a consumer at the same time. It is not sustainable, people. We've got to do something about it. James?
And of course, Sam, pardon the interruption. I mean, your focus, of course, and it shouldn't need to be stated, but your focus isn't in your concern with the way the Trump administration is rolling out and then revoking and then rolling out again and changing all of this isn't because you wanted to defend the status quo. I mean, that has been said. I mean, your concern is that this is going to cause hardships on small businesses that may make them go out of business. So your commentary here today is in defense of small businesses who are going to have to raise cost on products in order to keep up with the tariffs. And, we did talk about that earlier. I mean, so, with this store where my, family member went in and bought some clothes. But, I mean, that's a very real thing. And so they need to know what they're dealing with. Tariffs overall are good, right. But we can't have small businesses going out.
And that's why I speak out about it, because I think we might have a window by which to stabilize this thing. And let me tell you the worst thing we can do. The worst thing we can do is stick with the status quo. I agree with that 100% too. The best thing we can do is roll out stable tariffs with enough time for businesses to change and a level playing field that they can stably count on, and then a way to give the American people, the consumer, some kind of a relief somewhere. If you gave the consumer a relief somewhere, you added tariffs that were stable, that everybody could count on, and time to adjust and put systems in place for compliance and everything else. I think that's the best scenario. The second to the worst scenario, though, is to make these tariffs, all over the place, back and forth and up and down and this and that. And tomorrow they'll probably say, well, I'm going to put a hold on the doubling of the steel and the aluminum tariffs until, whatever date, July 19th or what. Okay, then, time to negotiate. And we're all waiting with bated breath to see what's going to happen. And meanwhile, do we bring in product or don't we? Do we bring in as much product as we can ahead of it? Or do we wait till after? What do we do? And businesses are making all these decisions, and a lot of dollars and cents are at stake that companies just don't have margins and rooms to play with. And then the question is, do you eat the difference and reduce your margins as a company and make less money? Or do you just flat out pass it to the consumer? Do you pass it to the consumer partly, but eat part of it yourself from your margins as a company? Do you put a line item on there, as you mentioned before, that hey, there's a tariff cost, and point the finger at Trump? It almost reminds me of those signs where they had on the gas pump, Biden did that or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Okay, I do that? Well, I don't want to do that because I agree with Trump on the tariffs. I don't disagree. That's not the point. So I don't want to do that, but yet I might have to, or else the consumer thinks I'm just raising prices and doesn't really realize how much and why. And I mean, it's just, that's what I mean. This unstable world is a nightmare. And now we're talking about the big, beautiful bill. So now Elon Musk says Trump's one big, beautiful bill is a, quote, disgusting abomination that will boost the federal deficit. Now, I'm on the side of Elon Musk on this thing. I get that there's a lot of good in the bill. There's some tax savings in there. Some of the tax cuts that were in 2017, I'm told, are made permanent in this thing. There's some benefits for families and child credit that's increased from $2,000 to $2,500. There's a lot of good in this bill, but there's a lot of pork. And even Rand Paul is saying, hey, he's concerned about it and he finds it to be a big problem. Well, I believe that Rand Paul has every right to have his opinion on it, but now you've got Trump attacking Senator Rand Paul. So he attacked Thomas Massey before for voting against some of these increases in spending. The last spending bill that spent us into oblivion, Massey voted against. Then Trump pointed his turrets at Massey. Now Trump's pointing his turrets at Rand Paul and Elon Musk. He leaves the Democrats alone. He leaves all the Republicans that spend us into oblivion alone. So here's Rand Paul's response to Donald Trump's, I don't know what you call it, attack. Trump puts the pressure on Senator Rand Paul. Senator Rand Paul says, I just can't vote for a $5 trillion increase in spending. And then I'll tell you what the battle really is in a second. But here's Rand Paul.
We hear from other senators who also get complaints from their people in their districts, but they're falling in line. Do you have 3 other Republicans who will stand with you to block this bill?
I think there are 4 of us at this point, and I would be very surprised if the bill at least is not modified in a good direction. Look, I want to vote for it. I'm for the tax cuts. I voted for the tax cuts before. I want the tax cuts to be permanent. But at the same time, I don't want to raise the debt ceiling $5 trillion. So I've told him if you take the debt ceiling off the bill, in all likelihood, I can vote for what the agreement is on the rest of the bill. And it doesn't have to be perfect to my liking, but I can't be. If I vote for the $5 trillion debt, who's left in Washington that cares about the debt? We will have lost. But the GOP will own the debt once they vote for this.
But the leader, as you know, is sort of in a tight spot here. He needs a vehicle to raise that debt ceiling. Otherwise, you had to turn to Democrats to get that done. What was the White House response when you asked that to the president?
Well, historically, the debt ceiling's always gone up and will always go up, and I'm not proposing that it doesn't. But the people who should vote for it are the people who vote for the spending. Historically, all the Democrats vote for raising the debt ceiling, and about 15 big government Republicans vote for it. This will be the first time it's voted on just by Republicans. This will be the first time that Republicans own the debt. They already own the spending. In March, we continued, not me, but most Republicans voted to continue the Biden spending levels. So you remember the campaign, everybody's talking about Bidenomics and Biden inflation and Biden spending levels. Well, the Republicans all voted to keep the Biden spending levels, and that's why the deficit this year is going to be $2.2 trillion this year.
So you think this is bad politics for Republicans? Some of your Republican colleagues like Josh Hawley are saying that the changes to Medicaid are bad politics for America's working people and for your party.
I think it was a bad strategy. I think the tax cuts are good for the economy. When we passed the tax cuts in 2017, the economy grew like gangbusters. We had lowest unemployment historically. It was the great achievement of Trump's first administration. They should have been satisfied by just doing the tax part of this and not getting involved into the debt part of it.
So there you have it, James. You got Elon Musk saying this is an abomination. A disgusting abomination. Trump's calling it one big, beautiful bill. Rand Paul's saying, hey, I cannot vote for a $5 trillion increase. I just won't do it. We've got to come to the table. I'm willing to vote for the bill because there's a lot of good in it, but we've got to come to the table and back this off. It gets worse because Republicans like Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, Rand Paul of Kentucky, Mike Lee of Utah is thinking about voting against it now as well. The big, beautiful bill does make the 2017 tax cuts permanent, which is good news. That's according to the Tax Foundation. I think that's a good piece. But the Committee for Responsible Government forecasts that it will add $3.1 trillion to the debt over the next 10 years on top of the current annual deficits forecasted. Now, Mike Johnson, the clown from the House, is saying, oh, Musk is terribly wrong. Democrats say they agree with Musk and his disgusting comments about the bill. I mean, this is just a disaster, a fight that we don't need. And in my opinion, it's because we have the complete wrong tactics going on here. We should have been passing teeny, one item, one page, clear, up-down vote bills. Okay? For example, one bill could say, hey, do we want the tax child credit to be increased from $2,000 to $2,500 and for it to be permanent? You vote yes or no. There's no debate. You're either for it or you're against it. It's clear. But when you put it in an over 1,000-page, one big, beautiful bill, there's so much pork and so much scandal and so much. Why are we talking about 10 years? The House only has 1 year Congress, 2-year terms. So it's like 5 congressional House sessions later. All I'm telling you is this is a disaster. And they should have known from the start that this would happen. This has happened for literally decades, James. And now we're right at the same spot. They're hoping to pass it by July the 4th. And now people like Rand Paul and Mike Lee are taking the beating from the Donald. It's a clown show. But we should have seen it. Go ahead and skip the break. We should have seen this coming. I mean, isn't this the way it's always played? And now it's the same way. Why are Rand Paul, Mike Lee, Thomas Massey on the opposite side of Trump on this thing? And the answer is because of the way they've decided to play it. Trump and Mike Johnson brought us into this mess, James.
So much to say in response to what we heard from Rand Paul, or as we learned last weekend, he's called Randy in the House of Paul. But first of all, I would just say this. You can't do single up and down votes in this current system. The system was never meant to preside or govern a multicultural society. So in Congress, you have all of these people that represent all of these squabbling nationalities that live in the United States, and you have obstructionists, you have people who are just going to be going out to stop anything that comes from someone who is not like them. You have to almost put it in as an omnibus type of thing because they will debate it to death. They will hammer it and filibuster, and nothing ever gets done in this Congress. Nothing gets done in the American government anymore because we're not one people. We're not homogenous. We're not working together. But frankly, all of these other different people groups hate each other. The people in Congress who represent these different groups hate each other. They're not going to work together. That's why nothing ever gets done. That's why it's just complete gridlock almost all the time. Now, that's my opinion on that. With regards to the spending, I don't know if Trump anticipated that Musk would actually cut a quadrillion from the spending like he said he would. I know he said $1 trillion, but he overpromised and underdelivered. I'm thankful for what we got out of it. Don't get me wrong, Doge is a great endeavor and it's worthwhile, and I hope they continue to cut more. But I mean, even in Ukraine, the United States government can always find money. Ukraine alone, what are we up to now? $250 billion? $250 billion there. We're talking about 3.1 trillion. If Doge had cut $1 trillion, you got $250 billion in Ukraine. All of the foreign aid, there's money out there to do that. And then why is any money going to Ukraine at all? I mean, this wasn't even a nation until 1991. This is the Russian people for centuries before 1991. That was part of Russia. The actual land of the Rus was in Kiev. That's where the whole Russian civilization started. And then, so we're supporting that. If we like secessionist movement so much, the United States should have funded my ancestors in the Confederacy. But so there is money. There is money. Now, this thing with the spending, what is it being spent on? What is it being spent on? The things that I'm looking at.
You want to know what you got to do? You got to pass the bill to know, James.
Well, that's exactly right. And they and even when they pass it, they don't know because they never read it. But I'm seeing here, I mean, what little bit, and this is a small thing when compared to $3 trillion, but, $47 billion for a border wall. We like that. 3,000 new Border Patrol agents, 5,000 new customs officers, $2 billion for further strengthening ICE and funding for 10,000 more ICE agents. And, all of the stuff I've read, extending the 2017 tax cuts, no tax on overtime and tips, $1,000 newborn credit, $2,500 child tax credit for families. I believe that's up from $2,000 right now per kid, raises state and local tax deduction cap, work requirements for Medicaid.
And by the way, that state deduction cap is for California and New York and others who have just absolutely, through inflation and all kinds of belligerent regulations, just basically abuse their consumers so much that the general government's trying to give those folks a break. They shouldn't bail them out like that either.
No, well, that's fine. But by and large, everything that I have seen from the Republican side of the propaganda on this are things that I support. Now, again, it doesn't nearly add up to $3 trillion. If for once in our lives,
by the way, that's why Rand Paul in his comments said there's a lot of good in here, and I'm likely to vote for it if we don't increase, $5 trillion in debt.
Well, if for the first time, I mean, all of the spending, all of the wanton spending that has been done to harm Americans, to hurt Americans, and to hurt American families. If for once in our life you've got a bill that, okay, I mean, there's always money to fund wars. There's always money in foreign aid for
so
all of the countries.
Money for wars, even though Trump said they could deal with $500 billion for the war budget. They've already increased it to $1 trillion. It's going up for more war.
See, that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, it doesn't take, really, when you're looking at that, it doesn't take long to cobble together $3 trillion when you're talking about, government spending. And so everything I've seen in this bill looks good to me, but of course, it doesn't nearly add up to $3 trillion. So what we need to know is what the spending is. And if we agreed on most of it, you're never going to agree on everything. But if for the first time, an administration, at least for the first time that I can remember, is spending money on things that will actually help America, even if it raises the debt. When have we ever been concerned about that? Not we, but the government.
Well,
I don't know.
We've been derated in our credit ratings by all three credit agencies now, and if that continues, we won't be able to. Look, we already spend $1 trillion a year on our interest, and if you get credit derating even further, or whatever you want to call it, credit rating hits, the interest will go up to where you won't even be able to handle the interest, James.
Well, I understand, but this is, again, that's never stopped Congress from approving these things before. I'd like to see what's in there. I would be hesitant to say if the first time we're really going to take a stand on spending is something that's going to benefit the American people. That just sounds sort of ironic and counterintuitive. We need to see what all the spending is and how that adds up to $3 trillion.
If you look at the 1,000 pages, what it's going to say is we adjust this provision and this, whatever. They'll give you the references to where they'll change this to say this and say that. And you can't even look at the 1,000 pages. You've got to go look at everything the 1,000 pages references. So you'll never be able to figure it out.
No, that's a good point. Well, and that's the way government works or doesn't work, but that's it. But overall, again, I don't want to sound hypocritical. We were giving both sides of it on the tariff issue in the first half hour, looking at it from both sides. And then on this, certainly I am against government spending, but not if it's being spent on something that is helpful, and everything that I've seen in this so far has been. So it's just, again, it's a complicated layered onion that we'll never really know. And, what happens if it doesn't
and
get
that's
passed?
Why I point
the
people that I somewhat
then?
trust, the Mike Lees, the Rand Pauls, the, Thomas Massey's, those kind of people, the Elon Musks, those are the people that are looking at this thing and have the ability to dig into it a lot further than we do because they have staff. Mike Lee or Rand Paul, for example, they've got 20 members on their team or 30 members on their team, and some of them are assigned to dig into the details of this. They also could get with several other congressmen or senators to say, hey, can you give me a summary of what you've dug into and what you see? And that's why I kind of rely on those people. And when I see Elon Musk, who was brought in there for Doge to cut costs, and he says, hey, man, this one big, beautiful bill, he says it's a disgusting abomination, and you guys who voted for it are wrong, and you know it. And then Rand Paul says, hey, man, I'm concerned about this, and that if you guys want to increase the debt by $5 trillion, I will not vote for it. And there's 4 senators that won't vote for it. I think it's Ron Johnson, it's Mike Lee, it's Rand Paul, and I can't remember the 4th one. You're starting to go, there's a lot of people that are against it. Now, on the defense side, because I agree with you that we should cover both sides. I'm not here just to attack Trump. And that's why I say I support the tariffs. And I'll support a lot of these tax cuts. I support them too. And that's why Rand Paul said I can support the bill if we can just, square away the belligerent spending in this thing. It's runaway spending and it's got to stop. And the only reason I'm focusing on this is not to attack Trump either. It's because I think we have a window to possibly do something that could get what we want with common sense. But here's what Trump also just did, and I commend Trump for this. It's not near enough, but I'm going to give credit where credit's due, and here it is. Trump asks Congress to claw back $9.4 billion in Doge savings, and it especially hits NPR and PBS. And that's even according to USA Today. So, I support that 100%. Now, it's a pittance. I get it, but it's a start. And, hey, it'll make my job easier not to have to fund NPR and PBS while I run my own radio network, right? So, I mean, there's some good there, too, and I support that.
No, again, excellent point.
I don't really know where to go with some of this. I mean, I appreciate $9.4 billion, but I don't see it as enough to. I mean, I hate to say that it doesn't matter because it does matter. Every penny we can save matters. But man, I look at this thing and I just go, why are we attacking guys like Rand Paul and Mike Lee and Ron Johnson and Thomas Massey? I mean, those are the best people in Congress that I know, James.
Well, that's truth. Of course, Trump is want to rake over the coals people who oppose him at any time. I think what we need to have a firm understanding.
Where's the loyalty Donald always talks about? He wants loyalty. At some point, he's got to give some loyalty, though. He's promised that he was going to decrease. Now, let me explain where the big battle rub is. The big battle rub is the Congressional Budget Office says this will increase debt big time. And what Trump says is, no, it won't. And the reason it won't is because, yeah, we're going to increase our spending, but don't worry, we're going to grow the economy so much it's going to offset it to where overall, even though we're spending more on a factual dollar point of view, because of the incredible money coming in, we're really spending less, and it's okay, don't worry about it. The growth is going to offset all this, and it's fine. But there's many of us that don't believe that because that's not a fact, James. That's a supposition, and that's where the real rub is.
Well, we need to know. Here's what we need to know. Here's the need to know. Obviously, we're not going to know exactly what we're spending it on, but we need to know what are the repercussions for spiking it. For not only, because again, this has not passed the Senate yet, and the Senate is going to massage this, if not kill it. And so it's going to look a little different if it passes than what it does today.
I guarantee they're going to massage it, not kill it. They've got to do something. The question is what we're going to give away in this, process.
Well, you got like a one senator cushion in that chamber of the House. So, I mean, Trump doesn't have a lot of wiggle room there. But again, what are the repercussions if it fails? What are we losing if it fails versus what are we gaining with the increased spending? I mean, that's just, and that is just, you got to decide what's worth more.
That's a reality check that's honest and fair. At the end of the day, if we don't pass something, what do we get? And if we do pass whatever, what do we get? And how big of a window do we have to advocate for what we think makes the most sense? And that's where I believe Rand Paul is spot on. He's literally said, I'm likely to vote for the bill, but we've got to come to the table and negotiate something that makes sense for us and for our goals.
Now, see, this is the thing,
that's common
Sam.
sense.
I like Rand Paul. Sometimes he's too principled. I mean, and by that I mean he would harm his own family to stick to a principle. But I like him. But if there was somebody in Washington who was in the media who has access to the White House briefing room, it would be wonderful if they could do a report or get an answer on what are we getting with this versus the consequences of it not passing. That question I just stated. It would be nice if somebody that is in the media would report on something like that, wouldn't it?
It'd be incredible. The problem is nobody has access to the White House or the briefing room or anything else. You put in your credentials and you've never heard a word back, have you, James?
No, not this time. When they needed us.
Hold on, I'm thinking James needs to be in the White House briefings to ask that very question and to create that very report. But so far,
I was thinking you, Sam, because you like to fly, or at least you will fly. But you
can just drive up there and stay up there and send your wife love letters, James. Come on.
Well, yeah, that's another option. When they needed us in 2016 to sort of get their messaging out to the right, the real right, the Buchanan right, they were talking to us. We were getting press credentials then. But that was something. Right. Something one of our people said last week. We're about at the end of the hour.
Do you have a prediction of what's going to happen here, James? And I'll give you mine.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. I think it is going to. I say it's I say it's 55-45 that you're going to get something, but he's got a scant margin in the Senate. But I do think it'll look a little different than it does today.
Here's my opinion: they're going to pass it, and at the end, nobody's going to be happy.
That sounds like America.
What a tragic situation, ladies and gentlemen. Pray for solutions, work towards solutions. The only reason I bring this up is I'm not dwelling on this and I'm not trying to attack anyone, but I believe we have a window to possibly advocate to improve things the best we can before it passes. That is our hope, ladies and gentlemen. Hour 1 in the can, Hour 2 coming up. We're completely switching subjects, though. You got to hang tight to hear what it's all about, though. It's going to be incredible. Hang tight. There are solutions on the table, and we're right at the center of them. James Edwards, thepoliticalcesspool.org. Yours truly, libertyroundtable.com. Syndicated by the Loving Liberty Radio Network, lovingliberty.net. Spread the word, share the love, and God save our republic.